Welcome back. I am 290 pages into A Gentleman in Moscow, and I figured I would talk a little bit about what it's about because I haven't talked about it yet. This starts in about mid-1920s Moscow, and it is set right after the Russian Revolution, where if you know the story of like Anastasia or, you know, Tsar Nicholas II, I think it is, at the very beginning of the book, we see our main character, who has been living in Paris, come back to Russia, and he is sentenced to house arrest in this hotel because he is the aristocracy. He is a count, and so because of the political climate in Russia at the time, the aristocracy are not favored in society, and the government wants to keep an eye on him. So he is put into house arrest in this hotel in downtown Moscow, and this book sort of follows him. He's a very eccentric person. It goes through several years and several decades of his life living in this hotel under house arrest. It is a very quirky book, the way it's written. It's very historically and culturally rich about Russia. And, you know, being a English major, I took a Russian lit class in college, and this is kind of bringing back some of those memories. But this is much easier to read than some of the Russian lit books that I had to read in college. And so I'm about on page 300. There are like 460 pages, so I'm gonna see if I can finish it today, if not today, tonight, and get on with it. Yeah, I'm liking it so far. I do think that this would be a really good book to listen to on audio. Back to reading. Good evening. I just did my skincare, and I was gonna do a little bit of my reading journal because I finished A Gentleman in Moscow, and I liked it. I really liked it. It definitely is written with a lot of words. It's
almost 500 pages, and it spans several decades, but it reads very much like an audiobook, which you can definitely hear the character's voice in the way the author wrote it, which I liked. It definitely took a minute to get through because there's just so many words, and like the phrasing was very conversational, but in a very, I don't want to say poetic, like in a very stylized way. And so it just took a little while for me to get through, but I really enjoyed it. I'll probably give it like 4 out of 5 stars, 3.5. So let's do that.
Hello, welcome to my studio. I'm gonna draw for a little bit, and I figured I would talk a little bit about the book I just started because I just started it. Here's the last thing I drew. Took me, it's been a while. I did a little sketch the other day when I was reading. It's from A Gentleman in Moscow. It's a very ugly, rough sketch, but I'm gonna do a more refined version of that. But the book I just started reading is called Dark Matter. It's been on my TBR for a few years now, even though it came out in like 2016. I'll put it right here. It's by Blake Crouch, who seems like a very renowned author that I've never heard of him before, and I've never read any of his books. But this is a book about a guy named Jason, who is a physics teacher, and he lives in Chicago. Then something happens, and suddenly his life is not his life anymore. He thinks he's in a different version of his world. And so I started it this morning, and now I'm on page like 130. And things are escalating very quickly. It reminds me a little bit of the Midnight Library. Let's get started over here so I don't get lost. It kind of reminds me of Midnight Library, but like much darker, if you could imagine that. But yeah, I like it so far. I was plowing through it this morning, and then I was realizing, like, as I was going, that my brain like was not keeping up with like the pace that it was going, so I needed to take a break. What was I saying? It reminds me of Midnight Library, but much darker. And so yeah, I needed to take a break because my brain was like, what is happening? And so that is where we're at now. But I have this image in my head of the man from Moscow, the main character. And now I can't remember what. Oh, yes, I think I remember now. What scene this is, but there's a one-eyed cat. And I wanted to draw it. He's looking at a letter, and the cat is looking at him because he has a glass of milk for him. And so we're gonna draw that. And I will check back in soon. Put on some music. It has been a day. And if I do one thing today, I'm going to finish Dark Matter. I have a real fire going in the kitchen and a faux fireplace going on the TV, and I have a little bowl of Valentine's Day and early Easter candy, thanks to my mother. And so we're just gonna eat our candy and finish this book. I'm on page 217, and it is 340 pages long, so like 130 pages. So I think we can do this. I'm gonna not look at my phone. I'm gonna put a little time lapse on, and we'll go from there. Alright, it is some time later. It's been about an hour and a half, and I'm happy to report that I finished Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. It definitely was a lot. It's one of those books where, like, I'm not sure if I have enough brain cells to follow, like, what was happening in the book. Like, it's one of those books that makes you question if you're smart enough to read books like that. I would say, like, I was really into it up until, like, the last, like, 30 pages or 40 pages or so. There's a twist that's introduced that I'm not sure if I really liked how that played out. I did like how it ended, and overall the concept is very unique, but also, I mentioned earlier, like, it kind of is like Midnight Library, if you've read that, but very different, but kind of similar, in premise at least. This is definitely, I think, supposed to be more of like a thriller and like scary at times, and like I did get some of that, but also my head was still like trying to keep up with what was happening and like the physics of it all, that it was hard to like be in the moment with like the action and like the scary moments or the thriller moments while I'm still confused about what happened like 5 pages ago. So I'll probably give this like 3.5 stars. This had been on my TBR for a long time. I mean, it came out in 2016, so it's definitely not new. And maybe I should have read reviews a little more closely, but overall, if you're into like science fiction, or if you're into like multiverse, like horror, it's not really that scary, but there are some like thriller elements to it. Then this book is probably for you, but don't know if it was for me. So I'll just leave it at that. With that, this is going to wrap up my this reading vlog. I'm working on some other projects right now that I'm excited about, some other videos, so I hope that you come back for those, and I will see you next time in my studio.